Welcome to a very special stream today. Got a live Q&A with the developer of Super Sami Roll, which, very excited to be talking with them today. Going to be joining them very shortly. Just want to thank everyone in advance for tuning in, and also remind you that we are taking live questions. Both of us have the chat open for the stream, so if you have any questions of your own while we go through things, please do just let us know. We are going to be playing through the demo for Super Sami Roll 2, talking about some things while we play. But first off, I'll go join Venox, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about the demo, the Kickstarter, how they're feeling about things at this point. Lots of exciting things to discuss. So let's head over there now. I'll undeafen myself on Discord. Let's head over there now. All right, Venox, welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think you're coming through okay. Everyone in the chat, please do just let us know how audio is going for you as we go on. I've got game audio in the background at the moment, it's just the music. But so long as you can hear Venox and I, that's the important part for now. So Venox, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I do want to start things off by just asking you, we've had the Steam Next Fest recently, and of course you've got the Kickstarter campaign at the moment. So that's a very busy period for you. I have to ask, how are you feeling at the moment?
Feeling good. So the Kickstarter start was pretty good. I think right now it's a bit slow, but that's just to be expected.
Of course, yeah.
But I think if we keep having like not 1, but 2 to 3% per day or something like that, we are okay. Also, by the end of the campaign, it will probably go up again. So I'm not particularly worried about that. I think we're okay so far.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we had a pretty good start to things, honestly, and we're about to cross the 50% mark, which is excellent in terms of most Kickstarter campaigns. I think the general sentiment is you still gain something like 30 or 40% the last couple of days of campaigns normally. So being close to the 50% mark, it's beautiful to see at the moment, but of course we do need all the support we can get and have people sharing the campaign and of backing, of course, you know. But I'm glad to hear that you're feeling good about things. Of course, with the Next Best demo, it means that people have been playing the game for the first time. How's that been for you as a developer?
I was a little bit nervous because the original game, it was very polarizing, I think. Some people love the original Super Sami Roll. Some people, I don't want to say hate it. I don't think anyone hates it, but some people just don't get it. Like the whole physics thing. And it also was pretty difficult. It was a difficult game. So that's one of the things I'm trying to kind of fix with this sequel. Like just make the difficulty curve smoother.
I think that's something the Kickstarter goes out of its way to address as well. And of course the demo itself too. It's a really great first time player experience from my perspective. Is there an ideal learning curve that you're aiming for the sequel with that in mind?
Yeah, so basically I think we will talk about this a bit more later with the questions, but I feel like the original Sami, like it just so World 1 and 2 were kind of okay, but World 3 was just too much, I think.
Yes, okay.
and it's not like I want to make this sequel easier. I don't actually, but I just want to take more time to get to that difficulty point so people feel more comfortable. So I just don't want people to get stuck in a level for an hour or something like that. That's the kind of thing I want to avoid.
Of course, yeah. All right, well, yeah, as we play, we can discuss that some more. There are a couple of questions I wanted to ask before we get into the demo. Just for some context for everyone, could you maybe tell us about your history in game development before Sonzai Games?
Well, so I always wanted to make games, right? So it was when I was in school, I already knew what my future was. I knew I wanted to make games. So when I was in high school, I started studying 3D and animation. So at the time, I was very active in the competitive scene for Half-Life, Counter-Strike, and Team Fortress Classic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about like maybe 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's
No,
really interesting though.
so I was very active on that. I had my clan, I had my tournaments and stuff. And that's when I started making maps, competitive maps for Counter-Strike and Team
Okay.
Fortress Classic. And I was hooked. I really loved making levels. All my spare time was just doing that all the weekend. So at the time, I had a small community. So whenever I made a map or I had a map to test, I always had people waiting just to test it out. So I would just contact them and put a server up, and we all would play it together. So yeah, I was like 4 or 5 years only making maps for games based on the Half-Life 1 engine.
Okay.
So at some point, I had to decide what I wanted to study, right? When I went to university. So I thought, my thought process was like, okay, I already know 3D, I know animation. What's next? And I thought, well, programming is next. If I can also program, that's it, I can make games. So that's what I did. I studied programming. When I finished, I'm from Spain, by the way. So in Spain at the time, there were not that many gaming companies, game developer companies. So I just started making like sales applications in a random company for 9 years or so, long time.
Wow. Okay.
And on my spare time, I kept doing 3D stuff for different games. But eventually, I just decided that no, I really want to do this full time. So I came here to Japan because my favorite games are from here. And I came here, I started studying Japanese, and I found a company. I entered the company as a programmer, a gaming company, game development company. And I released a few games. Eventually, I became game director on that company. And after that, eventually, the department director on that company.
Oh, wow.
And it came one point where I got tired of making games for clients. I wanted to make my own games, right? Because and I had good games. Like the IPs were good. I remember we made an Astro Boy game, and that was very fun.
Okay.
We made a, I don't know if you know, Yumeniki game. That was also very fun. But yeah, I wanted to make my own games. So I quit the company, and in 2020 I founded Sonsai Games, and well, you know the rest. I made Sami, and after that I made Bad Boy, and now I'm working on Sami 2, and along the way I also supported other companies for making a game called Smelter, which I did all the level design, and another game called Last Time I Saw You, for which I did most of the coding.
Which actually released the week before the last Steam Next Best demo, where Sami was released. So again, such a busy period for you all at once.
Yeah, it was. It was very busy, and I also had to go to Spain at that time. Everything, the same day the Steam Next Fest started, I was taking a plane to Spain for 2 weeks. So yeah, it was tough, but yeah,
I cannot imagine.
It went pretty well, yeah.
All right, one last question then, before we start playing. You mentioned you've gone from Sami to Bat Boy. Bat Boy released last year. What made you want to return to Super Sami Roll for the sequel?
Well, there were several things. First of all, when I finished the original Sami, I was pretty tired to finish that game, because at the time I didn't have the funds for development.
Okay.
Half of the development was done during weekends while I was working on Smelter. So eventually, Smelter finished. We finished Smelter, and I put all my time on Sami, but still working 7 days a week. So I was exhausted by the end, and I thought like making something a bit easier would be nice, just to take a break. So that was Bad Boy. Bad Boy is way more simple as a game, like from the development perspective, not from the player perspective is different. but from development it was nicer in the sense that it was like 5 days a week, 8 hours per day. It was nice, and I
Sure.
also had a partner company called X Plus, and they provided all the art. So I made the game design, the level design, and all the coding, but they made the art. So it was nice. But I knew that once Bad Boy was finished, the next one was going to be a 3D game again, because
Okay.
I want to keep changing between 3D and 2D, and I wanted it to be Sami 2, but at the time Sami 1 was not selling all that much
Sure.
until Nitro Rat made that video,
Yep.
and the game started selling way more, and I was like, okay, that's it. I mean, now it makes sense to make a sequel. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we are all very thankful for Nitro Red. I mean, it's how I found the game. You know, I joined the speedrunning community almost 2 years ago now, I'd say, and you know, absolutely fallen in love with it. It's Sammy's a very unique experience, and it's not something that I have easily been able to find anywhere else. So knowing that there is a sequel on the way, it's a very exciting prospect for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other people.
And for me too.
Of course, yeah, of course. Okay, well, I do have some more questions, but shall we have a look at the demo and talk about things as we go, and we can, you know, go from there, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, swap us over onto here. It is just the regular overlay, folks, nothing too exciting. I'll just get my questions up, just make sure that's available. And let's start us off in a fresh save file, none of these new completed ones. And how about we do relax mode and just take our time with things? Does that sound good? Nope. Are you still there, Vanox?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, sorry. Alright, let's have a look. I mean, first thing to mention, of course, is the lovely new cutscenes that we've got here for the intro. Obviously, very different from the pixel art style of the original game.
So these new illustrations are from Kevin Fagaragan, which is also the artist behind a lot of YouTuber art, like for Nitro Rat, also Antdude.
Yeah, I was going to say Antdude, I've seen them do a lot
Yeah.
of work for them over
He's
the
a
years.
very talented artist. Yeah.
Yep. I think they're very fun. It sort of captures the vibe what Sammy used for me pretty perfectly, I'd say.
Yeah. Very easy to work with him. He gets the vibe very quick. So yeah, it was very good result.
Now we've got the most obvious thing to mention is the difference in visuals. So
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned before the aim was to make something, you know, pretty striking, let's say, compared to the original Super Sami, which I think was a lot to do with limitations with Switch in particular, I understand.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. So for the original game, I knew I wanted it to be running at 60 FPS on Switch, which is not easy in a game with a free camera.
Yep.
The problem at the time is that I didn't have like a Nintendo Switch dev kit, so I couldn't test it. I just had to guess. Keep the draw calls. There's one thing in 3D that is called draw call. Keep the draw calls as low as I can. Simplistic geometry, very simple materials. So I basically made sure that the game would run at 60 FPS on Switch. And when we eventually tried on Switch, it still required a bit more work, but it worked in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it worked in the end for all levels. It's 60 solid, 60 FPS. But that was a lot of work, and that basically meant that the game would look very simple, like on the visual aesthetic. I think it looks cute. I like the visuals of the original game, but it's very simple. Now, with this game, well, the technology evolves. So now the 60 FPS is still a target, but for Switch 2, whatever it's called in the end, that machine.
We're all still waiting.
Yeah. It still will be releasing on Switch. Now, what I don't know for sure right now if it will be 60 on the base Switch, because that's probably a bit too much.
Yeah.
So the Switch has very good looking games, but if you notice, all of them have a fixed camera. You cannot freely move the camera. There are a few exceptions, one of them being Super Mario Odyssey.
Sure, yep.
Odyssey is the exception, not the rule, and that's because it's made in an engine that is specifically designed for Switch.
Yep.
You will never see a game like Mario Odyssey from a third-party company. It's just not possible. Without that technology, it's just not possible. So I wanted a game that looks very nice, but also runs very smoothly. So yeah, that's what I'm trying with Sami 2. But yeah, like the visuals is a huge step up if you compare it with the original game, for sure.
Oh, well, I think just based on the demo alone, you've done a wonderful job so far. I mean, it's it's such a beautiful change compared to the original.
It's not just the visuals. I also wanted it to feel more alive, more characters, more stuff going on.
There's so much more movement in the world. I mean, you've got so many of these little features, like these Nubos. I don't think we had NPCs like this in the original at all. And I think they just add so much more life and charm to the world as you're playing. Like, it's adds a lot for me personally. Like rolling on grass has this a nice unique sound effect. Little features like that, which are really nice. Sammy's animations, of course. Not just like the new spin jump and things like that, but when you do grapple jumps, the way he sort of can spin himself around in different directions and flick his tongue around. It's all really nice to see.
In the original game, you could not even walk or run. You could just roll. So there were no room for new animations either. So
I have collected the raspberry so far there. And also picked up the second of what appears to be an expanded set of collectibles for the sequel. So, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Having a difference between one optional collectible to 3 in every level. That's a pretty big change, I'd say.
Yeah, so with the original game was all about speed. Because, well, I think there is a question regarding this later, probably, but there was never a relaxed mode intended. Like the original.
Like what we're doing right now, no timer. Yes.
Yes. So the original game was designed with a timer in mind. Everything, all the levels.
Of course.
So having more items to collect, it didn't make sense because you were not supposed to explore the level in the original game. Now, Sami 2 is a different story because, first of all, we know from the beginning there is a relax mode, and even without the relax mode, the timer is way more generous than in the previous game. So you don't need to be perfect. You can take your time, look around, and that's fine. So yeah, I thought like having more things to collect would be just fun. You can ignore them, of course. They are not required for anything. But if you are the type of person who enjoys collecting, like the collectathon type of game, I thought that was a nice touch.
It does change how you want to approach the game as well. Like, I feel like when I'm loading into levels, I'm spending so much more time exploring, and then I want to go back and try to rat the level properly after that. After I found all these collectibles, it makes me engage with the game in a way that I never did in the original, which just makes this demo such a unique feeling experience for me, which I really value. It's a different feel for the franchise, but I really like it as its evolution to the formula, let's say.
Very glad to hear.
I will ask the first of questions that are coming in the chat. What kind of lizard is Sami? Is it an undiscovered species, a combination of things?
You know, so many.
So many people ask it. Yeah.
I never thought about that when I designed it. It was just like I don't know. Like for example, if you ask the creator, one of the creators of Pokemon, what kind of animal is a Pokemon, I don't know. For me, it's just like a small lizard, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a particular animal. It's just something I came out, like I thought of. It's not a real animal. It's not supposed to be a real animal.
Yeah. That's alright. Sami can just be a Sami. That's fine.
Yeah.
I do really like that in these levels we've got these new little tutorials for some mechanics which existed in the first game, but I think it's a bit more obvious to people now. You know, holding jump in the air to sort of slow your descent and things like that. It's not super intuitive to people.
Yeah. And that's the other good thing about making a sequel. It's like you have all the experience from the original. You know what worked. You know what didn't work. Like what you just mentioned, just holding the jump button to jump higher. Just holding the jump button to jump higher or fall slower is something that it was never shown in the original game. Never explained you that, right?
Yep.
And some people didn't get it, and I saw that when seeing people playing on Twitch. Some people had trouble with that because they didn't notice that. So that's one thing I really wanted to explain in the original in this game. Yeah.
I think just having it be a much more compact experience helps with it as well. I mean, the tutorials over the first game were sort of spread out over a longer period of time, right? Doing it over 5 levels here, I suppose, makes a difference, right? You've got these larger spaces, presenting people with tutorials more often.
Yeah, the pacing, yeah, that's important too, yeah. Like the levels, in general, the levels in Sami 2 are bigger, especially in the beginning. So the tutorials give you plenty of time to just get used to the new mechanics.
I will clarify, Comfox, because we are playing in relax mode, the highest rank I can obtain right now is A+. If I swap it over to advanced, I could get Maestro. So that's the reason we got A+ there in that last level. But maybe we can do a quick Maestro run at the end. We'll see. It doesn't take very long. Another question from Osu, from the Australian Rivals community. Thank you for popping in. What have been some of the most difficult technical challenges you faced so far in developing Sami 2?
Technical. Well, probably the biggest one is the whole physics, because okay, so looking at the original game, I can reuse some stuff from the original game, right? Like some models, some stuff I can just take like it is. But one thing I knew I had to do from the scratch again was all the physics, because the first game was very experimental. I didn't have a clear idea in the beginning where I was making of, honestly. Eventually it took form, but in the beginning I wasn't sure.
Yep.
So it was very limited. The original game is very limited in what Sami can do. Like, for example, just rolling around, you can see how in Sami 2, Sami leans left and right when you are at high speed.
It's a great little visual feedback, I think. I really like it. Even
that
in the air
happen.
as you're leaning.
Yeah. In the original Sami, it's not like that. The original Sami is very simple. If you look at the code, it's actually pretty simple, but that also limited me a lot, because there are just so many things you can do in a level with such simple physics. So I knew that for Sami 2 I had to do everything from the scratch, because I wanted to add, well, this is not a secret, it's in the trailer, but I wanted to add like gravity changing levels. So that would have been impossible in the original game. Like in the original game, gravity always go down. You cannot change that.
Yep.
In this game, I can change gravity whenever I want, just because I rework all the physics, so I can do that. So that was the most challenging part. I'm certain of it. It was like a month and a half or something, just doing coding for the physics. So, yeah.
I mean, just in terms of game feel, I know I've said it before, and a few others, but it already feels substantially better compared to the original Sammy in certain ways. Like I just feel like the physics, there's certain things about it that are much better in terms of game feel. There's a few accessibility things as well, like a short little input buffer on the tongue grapple. Like all these things really add up. Also, Sammy just feels like an absolute joy to control at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of time was put into doing that. Yeah, and you just mentioned the tongue grapple. That's one of the things that some players found very difficult in the original game is to
just consecutive tongue grapples like this. It's not an easy thing for people to get accustomed to, I'd say.
What we call tongue jumps, just that.
Yes, yeah.
You have to be fast, right? You have to press the tongue button and then the jump button like in quick succession. And some people have a lot of problems doing that. So, like you mentioned, one of the accessibility features of this game is that you don't need to actually press the jump button. If you are slow, don't worry, it's going to jump anyway.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we've got auto tongue jump as well, which I don't have enabled right now, but just to turn it on and try it out. If I were to grapple and not press jump, Sammy is still jumping as he approaches the end of his grapple point, isn't he?
Exactly, and because the tutorial is still teaching you to press the jump button, so you will still press the jump button. You just don't need to do like so Sammy's gonna jump anyways, but if you hold the jump button, it's going to jump higher, and because the tutorial is teaching you to press the jump button, that's enough. It will jump. So that's one of the things that I hear more complaints of the original game. So I knew I had to address that in the sequel.
Alright, let's move on. Gonna show off a bit of an optional path here. Which, I mean, going into level 2, I'm gonna say I think this is the real highlight of the demo. Just having this big sandbox level like this, I mean, if we have a look at it here, and having this huge like optional path on the side here, it's just such a different feel from the original game, I'd say. Were there any other inspirations after completing Super Sami Roll 1 that sort of fed into this new design philosophy, or is it just sort of you wanting to address some things about the original that you wanted to expand upon?
Beat Summit is a game industry event where you go and show your game, and anyone can go and play games that are in the making, right?
Yep.
So during Beat Summit, one friend of mine, another dev, they tried the original Sami, because I also showed the original Sami in Beat Summit, and they tried it and they liked it. At that time, I think the game was already out. So that night, I think he bought the game and he played the whole thing in 2 days or something.
Okay.
And he told me like he liked it, but one thing he was missing was like just being able to roll around, just move around, see the world, because the levels in the original Sami are very compact. There's trick after trick after trick. There is no real time to just roll around and find the path and stuff like that. So he told me, I just hope there was more space to just roll around and enjoy the Vista, right? So I took that feedback and I thought like, you know what, you're right. Just rolling is fun. So I knew I wanted to have bigger levels in this sequel. So that's why level 2, this level is like it is. Because I wanted people to just roll around, use the slopes, see how Sami leans left and right, and just have fun just by moving. So that's why this one is like it is, and a lot of levels are going to be like this.
Okay, so less influence from other potential games that have come out since, but more so just trying to give people space and just being able to enjoy the game.
Yeah, give people space. The tricks are important. You still have to do some tricks, but especially in the beginning of the game where you don't know how to do tricks or anything like that, just move around, get used to the physics, and just enjoy it. As simple as that. It doesn't need to be always a challenge, right?
The water rolling that we're experiencing right now is another like big expansion to that as well. New mechanic, pretty unexpected after the first game, I'd say.
Yeah, I actually had this idea for the original game, but like I mentioned, the physics were very limited, so I just gave up.
Just wouldn't allow for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's show off one thing with this then. So the speedrun strategy for this one evolves pretty quickly, I'll say. So Osu's asked, what are some of the speedrunning strats that surprised you the most? And is there anything that speedrunners haven't discovered yet? So I think, in reply to that one, is this maybe one of the strategies that you weren't expecting people to sort of figure out? Being able to show you again?
Yeah. I not once I imagine someone would do that, yeah.
Being able to just ground pound and sort of transition into the water rolling, like it's a really surprising strategy. And there's a couple of sort of like different alterations on that. One which sort of gets you down into this half pipe down here, which sort of launches you all the way up to this spot. Like there's a lot of really cool strategies with that.
That one was the most surprising to me. I didn't expect that at all.
I mean, shout outs to Falco, I believe, finding that one, but we do have a speedrun.com page for the demo, so if you're interested in playing the demo for yourself and trying to find some of these things, feel free to submit your times. We've got any percent and individual levels. No one's recorded a 100% yet, but I have been thinking about doing it over the course of this campaign, so maybe we can add to that soon. Going to level 3 now. Any other questions in the chat that we need to quickly have a look at? Comfox has asked what inspired the rail grinding, for example.
Yeah, that's Sonic. That's 3D Sonic games.
I mean, I know when people talk about Sammy already, a lot of people talk about seeing Sonic influence already, so it feels like a pretty natural progression, right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, Sammy runs into a ball just like Sonic, so yeah.
Yeah, so you see the comparison yourself.
It actually was, I have to be honest, it was not an inspiration. I love Sonic as a character.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of most of the games, I have to be honest. So when I came up with Sammy as a rolling game, as a concept, the original inspiration was actually Super Monkey Ball.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, but I can see now, because, of course, like, Sammy is not within a ball, it's just turning into a ball. So yeah, it looks way more like Sonic than it does like Monkey Ball.
Bloopers just asked an impossible question for you. What's your top 3 platformers? Is that one you want to ponder on for a little bit, or is it hard to pick favorites?
This is the kind of question I would love to have like 2 days in advance. So really
okay, yep.
But just to mention a few, I really like the original Spyro the Dragon.
Okay,
I had it when it came out. I loved it, so that's one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites is Ape Escape. I think it's a very cool concept. And I don't know if I should say that because it's probably not going to make the cut. But when I started working on Super Sami Roll 2, I actually had a mini game like Ape Escape, where you control a character. It's nothing like it's not Sammy like. It's not Sammy. It's another character that I'm not gonna mention. It's another character running around with a bubble gun. So basically, you run around and you capture not monkeys. It's other animals. You capture other animals with putting them in a bubble and stuff like that. I don't think it's gonna make the cut because it is a lot of work. For a mini game, it's way too much work. It's a whole game by itself if I really make it. But yeah, that's how much I love Ape Escape.
I potentially could see it in the pipeline in the future for Sonzai games then, if it's something you may want to revisit.
And of course, I like all the 3D Mario games. I like them a lot.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm going to take the cheap answer and say Super Sami Roll is definitely up there for me.
Yeah, it is for me too, but it would.
Yeah,
If
I know you can't say it. I can say it.
it doesn't sound very good.
Okay. I suppose a couple more questions that I had. Has there been anything that's been surprising to hear in terms of people playing the demo for the sequel so soon? Any responses to it, or gameplay clips that have really surprised you?
In terms of really surprise, no. What surprised me, I don't know if surprise is the right word for this. So one thing I was hyper focused is making sure that the difficulty was smooth.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
even at the beginning of the original Sami, some people have problems finishing some levels, and that's natural. But that's something I wanted to fix. So I was hyper focused on making sure that people would not feel like this demo was too difficult. So I wanted to make it real smooth. So the quote unquote surprise for me was like nobody complained about that. Nobody complained the game
really?
about being too. I have not seen that. I have not seen that feedback, like anyone saying it's too difficult or feels bad, because, and that's another thing you can see. For example, in the Steam reviews for the original game, like some people say it's difficult, some people say the controls are bad, and I think it's the same kind of problem.
Sure.
It's just that different people have different opinions about it. Some people think it's just difficulty, and some other people think it's actually the game not controlling very well.
I'm doing a good job of showcasing the difficulty right now.
Yeah.
Failing to do things that I've done countless times before.
The most surprising thing to me, and positive surprise, is like nobody's saying that it is too difficult or it controls badly. So that's knowing the feedback from the original game, that's a surprise actually, a good surprise.
That's really wonderful to hear. I mean,
This is probably this is the most difficult stage of the demo for sure.
I think it comes at a good time though. After you've had those initial tutorials, this level I think reinforces a lot of those lessons, and it makes sure that you know how to use Sami's moveset, and
Yeah.
at least presents you with a lot more challenges than the other levels go out of their way to. I don't know. Initially, I was quite surprised to see a really linear level in the demo.
Yeah.
But after spending some time
like,
with it, it feels like a really natural fit.
Yeah, this is a tutorial level, purely like a spin tutorial, and I felt like it was easier to explain this with a linear level. Yeah.
Yes. We'll go through and do a bit more of a smooth run. I do like taking my time with things as we're talking, but I want to show at least, one kind of decently routed attempt on each level, let's say.
Yeah.
Any other questions from chats coming in? I see Comfox has just written some comments on the difficulty in the first game. So I think the difficulty in the first game is a bit lopsided. First world is a breeze, then the third world is a huge wake-up call. Yeah, so that is the general sentiment that a lot of people share.
Not just that, also the levels become way longer in the third level. So it's more of, it takes way more time. Like I would say, like probably in a first playthrough, you finish World 1 in maybe 30 minutes. World 2, 45 minutes maybe a bit more. But World 3 is going to take you 2 hours at least.
That's assuming that you're playing, on one of the lower difficulties, or not going back and spending time in optional levels or secret levels, or trying to improve your time. Even as someone who was pretty proficient with the game early on, I think 4-S1 or S, the very first secret level of World 4.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it took me about 2 hours the first time when I was playing exclusively in advanced mode.
that one is, yeah, that one is difficult for sure. Like it's called like Precision Master, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the first level that really presents you with the thin rails.
Yeah. that's another thing that a lot of people didn't like about the original games.
Specifically the thin rails.
Yes, yes.
But when I compare here, look at how much space I have just to roll around, right? Not to say that we're not ever going to get as challenging content in the full game, but it feels so different to just be able to enjoy the space right now.
Yeah, I think my philosophy for this game is just options, giving options. So people like yourself, you like the challenge, you will find the challenge. But some people just want to relax a little bit, just have a fun time without really having to do very difficult stuff. So the idea is to have paths in the levels that, you know, if you are not very good at the game or you just don't want to put that much effort on finishing the most difficult levels, you're gonna find ways to finish them anyways.
I mean, yeah, when you're presenting with a level like this, I feel like there's so many different ways to go about climbing up and all these different paths to get to places. It's a very different type of experience, but I really like the experience that the demo presents. You know, if you're someone who's played the original game, I do think playing the demo for the sequel is definitely worth it to see if your feelings on it land a little bit differently. If you had those concerns about the original game at all.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do one more question before we move on here. Let's see. Pretty specific question then. What is more challenging for you as a solo developer, the art or the programming? Is there something that you enjoy more than the other, potentially?
So I don't think challenging would be the word, but
rewarding, let's say.
Yeah, so I like the fact that I have to do both is something I really like.
Yep.
You never get bored because if one day I'm doing art, the next day I'm probably doing coding, so that's fun.
So kind of keeping it fresh for yourself that way as well.
Yes. And one day I'm doing coding, the next day is art, the next day is sound effects. So that's very fun. However, for coding, you really need to focus. For coding, I can have maybe music in the background, but you really need to focus. And coding is hard. Coding takes time and it's very tiring if you are just coding for 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
So that's I enjoy it. But the difference with art is like with art I can just have a podcast, I can have even a YouTube video in the background, and that's fine. With coding, no. With coding, you actually need to focus for real.
Of course, yeah.
So in that sense, it is more challenging.
All right, that is the end of the demo. So it's presented with our very lovely end screen here. So all the links you want to see. Do we have any more questions in the chat? I think we probably can do a very quick speed run of the demo in full if you're interested, Venox, and just answer any last questions that people may have while we're doing this.
Yeah. If people post questions in the chat, I can answer those.
Let's see. Is there anything that I've missed over the course of the stream? There was one really early one here. So, how do you go about testing difficulty? So you know all about the mechanics and how Sami moves, and you're obviously pretty proficient in it. But does this make it difficult to place yourself in the shoes of a new player?
Oh, it's impossible. Yeah. No. For the sequel, it's just because I have all the experience of the original game. The real test was the original game. Like make that right, and believe me, that was very difficult because I made like 80% of the original game without showing it to anybody. And I was super good at the game, obviously, because I was playing it every day, all days, every day. So once I found a publisher for the original game and I sent them a build, and they were like, are you crazy or something? This is impossible. And I was like, what? So it was like, it was a very difficult game in the beginning, the original, more than it is now.
Okay.
So it was a very difficult game. I thought it was easy. That's a mistake all the developers do. I thought it was easy, and they sent me videos, and I saw what they were doing, and I was like, well, it actually, looking at that, it looks pretty difficult. So I started making the original game easier and easier. The relaxed difficulty actually was an afterthought. I think I added the relaxed difficulty like 2 months before release, and you can see that in the game because there are a handful of levels where you literally cannot die, right? So there is this level called Tubular in the original game.
2-10. Yep.
Yes, and if you play in relaxed, you cannot die. There are no pits, no lava, no water, because what happens in how it works in the original game is like if you get damaged by an enemy, you just lose time.
Yep.
You cannot actually die. Now, if you play in relaxed mode, there is no time, so you cannot die in that level. So that's one of the things you can look at and see like relaxed mode was an afterthought. But yeah, that was one of the things I had to add at the very end just to make it easier. I also made all the times for all the levels way more generous. I removed enemies.
Okay.
There was a point in the original Sami where there were no difficulties at all. It was only advanced. What is now advanced?
Really?
That was the difficulty.
Oh my goodness.
That was it. Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoy your game, Beanox, but I find that baffling. Like,
I do now.
I think that would have been off-putting for myself personally. I can't imagine. Yeah.
That would have been terrible. And the reason why it was like that there were no checkpoints or anything.
Yep. Okay.
It was like that because my inspiration for that kind of difficulty part was actually Super Monkey Ball. In Super Monkey Ball, there are no checkpoints. But of course, the difference is that in Super Monkey Ball, the levels are way shorter. And because in the beginning, the original Super Sami Roll 1, World 1, World 2 levels are pretty short in general, I was like, I don't need checkpoints. Now, when people started playing the game, they were like, no, this is way too difficult. And then I noticed, oh, wait, I have been increasing the size of the levels over time. And now with no checkpoints, it really doesn't make much sense. So I added the normal difficulty. So there were two difficulties at that point. It was like normal and I don't remember. It was not hard. It was something else, but it was two difficulties. And eventually I sent the build to the publisher and they told me, no, this is still way too difficult. So that's when I came up with Relaxed.
Sure. I mean, I'm very thankful that Relaxed mode is an option. Even for something like your speedrunning community, I know Relaxed mode has opened up the possibility of doing some pretty insane things, and I think it's made something like any percent a much better experience, let's say.
Yeah, as a developer, there is one reason why I don't like Relax all that much in the original game, because it was never thought.
Yeah.
That was never an option, right? In the beginning. So the problem now with Relax is that all the levels were designed so you have to take one of the several intended paths. Otherwise, if you try to skip a big section of the level, you will run out of time.
Yeah.
So you were forced to actually play the level and take coins. Having Relax mode just throws all that through the window. Like with Relax mode, that doesn't apply anymore. So all the effort I put into making sure that you had to play some sections of the levels to take coins, that doesn't apply anymore in Relax. So that's the part I don't like all that much. But for the sequel, now Relax is going to be is in the design of the game from the very beginning. So that's not going to be a problem anymore.
It's interesting. My own opinion on it actually changed over the course of speedrunning. Like, I was adamant at the start that all speedruns should be in advanced mode, and collecting the coins is part of the challenge. And I relaxed on it very quickly once I realized some of the cool things you could do without a timer. So yeah, even from a player perspective, my thoughts on it changed over time.
I think as a designer, I think it is a bit of a shame that some of the very cool levels you don't get to see them in speedrun, because you just skip the whole thing. I think it's
Yeah, okay.
311 or something like that. I don't remember but there is one level toxicity in
Oh,
the
3
original
3 dash
Sami.
10. You just do a jump straight across. Otherwise, it's something like a 2-minute
Yes,
level in regular play,
that
right? It's a
that level is probably in my top 3 of
Oh,
that
really?
game. I love that level, but it's completely skipped because of that skip. But it is what it is. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. I know it's a level that people kind of struggle with on their first playthrough as well, so it's interesting that
Yeah,
it
it's not
ranks
easy.
up
Yeah.
there in your favorites.
Yeah.
One more
Probably too tight.
question
Yeah.
from Comfox, and then we'll do a very quick final playthrough of the demo, do a bit of a speed run. Do you have any ideas on how you want to handle boss fights in the sequel compared to the first one? I know that's something that the Kickstarter hasn't mentioned at all, so it's a very interesting question to ask.
Yeah, and someone else also asked, probably it was also Fox in Discord, also about some design choices that I regret from the original game, and I think this connects with the bosses.
Okay.
So yes, it is funny because for the bosses, when I designed the bosses for the original game, I think I was playing at that time Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, and everybody hates the bosses in that game. You have to wait a lot of time.
Really? Okay.
So I knew that. I knew that that kind of boss was not good, and I still made the same mistake. Not as big as of a mistake, but I think it's okay. The bosses are okay in a casual playthrough. I don't think they are that bad. But I can see how for speedrunners they are kind of like frustrating. I think the bosses in the original Sami make you wait a bit too much. So for the sequel, that's gonna change. There are still bosses, but
Okay.
it's not that type of boss. It's a type of boss where you are always in movement. You are still platforming. You're moving around. So yeah, it's a different concept of a boss. So don't expect the wait for a pattern and then hit 3 times. It's not like that anymore.
I'm really curious to see what you're cooking up there. Sounds good to me, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I suppose one more question off the back of that then. The Kickstarter campaign, one of the rewards that's being offered right now is access to a closed beta of the game at some point.
Yes.
Are you able to tell us anything about what you envision in this? Is it going to be like a pretty limited beta, like maybe access to, say, the first world, or a set of levels that you want tested by the community? Do you have any thoughts on this right now, or is that something that you're still working out for yourself, how you want to run things?
I do have some thoughts. It's going to be limited, but it's not going to be just one world. I'm still not sure it's going to be 2 whole worlds. It might be,
Okay.
but it's going to be a decent amount of levels. Yes, quite a lot. And I know that's a reward, but that also helps me. Like people playing that, and me seeing people where they struggle and what is difficult, what is too easy, and stuff like that is gonna help a lot. And I think we can figure that all together in like maybe around 2 worlds of levels. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, like you said, it seems like you developed 80% of the first game without having anyone play it. So having players who want to play it and want to be able to share their thoughts on things so early on, I'm assuming it's going to be so valuable for yourself.
The first game was so experimental. Like I still think there are no other games like Sami, because if you look it from the outside, it kind of looked like a Marvel Blast game or a Monkey Ball game, but it actually plays very differently. And I cannot think of a single game that feels like Sami. So there was a lot of experimentation. Something worked, something didn't. Some parts, like for example, like the bosses we mentioned were not great. The fixed camera levels, those are not good. So no more of those in the sequel. But yeah, that was a very, very experimental game, and I'm so happy now I have all the experience from that game when developing this sequel.
Are there any like non 3D platformers that sort of give you similar feelings to what Super Sami Roll is, or do you really treat it as a unique experience that's just out there?
Yes, there is one game. So this is also I think I have mentioned this before. At some point, I would love to make a 2D Sami.
Okay.
But the problem is there is already a game that is a 2D Sami, pretty much,
Okay,
and that's
yeah.
Grapple Dog. Grapple Dog is very similar.
Okay, yeah.
Grapple Dog, the original Grapple Dog, came I think 4 or 5 months after the original Sami. But it is pretty much so they were both in development at the same time, but it is kind of the same concept. It's not the same. It's very similar. So if I think about to the Sami, I think something like Grapple Dog. The only clear difference is like well, the Grapple Dog has no rolling physics, right? It has physics, it has momentum, but it's not rolling physics. So that would be the one thing that would be different. But other than that, they are pretty similar.
That's really curious. I mean, Grapple Dog just had its sequel release earlier this year as well, and I really enjoyed that. I never would have made the parallels between Grapple Dog and Super Sami Roll, but there you go.
Yeah, but if one day I make and I want to, I make a 2D Sami, it will be similar. It has to be.
Yeah, that's
the concept is very similar.
Yeah, so interesting to me. Alright, let's do one last speed run, and then we're going to close things out after that. Any more questions for Vinox? Make sure you send them through now. Could be your last 5 minutes to do so. But as a speed run for the demo, this is kind of how things look if you're curious. And I've set us up in Maestro mode here. I really should have practiced this before the stream. It's been a little while since I practiced. Oh, see, I've already gone wrong here.
Already making a
no. What I do need to do actually is set us up on a global timer. That's probably going to help, so we can see all the mistakes that I'm making in real time. All right, Vinox, I have to take the easier option here. I'm sorry, I'm letting you down. I really am letting you down. My goodness.
Well, this is more time showing the game.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the intention all along. People call it farming content. You know, normally it's. I do want to thank you again for joining me today. It's been a wonderful chat so far. Are there any other thoughts at this stage of the Kickstarter campaign that you really want to share with people as we close out the stream today?
About the Kickstarter campaign, not as much. It's not my first Kickstarter campaign. We also had a Kickstarter campaign for Bad Boy.
Yes.
My previous game. And it was... Wow, it was like I think we reached the goal the last day. So the same might be happening with this one. Who knows? I just hope we make it until the end. Like we reach the goal. Now the reason I don't know if I explained this in the Kickstarter campaign itself, but I think I do. The reason why it is important to reach the goal because it's around 15,000 USD.
Yes,
it's not that much. That's obviously not going to cover all the development, right? That's making a game takes way more than that. But that's enough for a few months of work, and if I can reach that, I can also get funds from my company itself and from other sources. So the idea here is to focus on this game, because so far for both Super Sami Roll 1 and Bad Boy, I had to be working on 2 projects at the same time. I always work on 2 projects at the same time. One for a client, so I earn some money through there, and then my game, in this case, Sami and Bad Boy. Now for Sami 2, if we can reach the goal, potentially I could focus only on Sami, so that means reaching the release date mentioned in the campaign, and that would be wonderful. That would be fantastic if I could just focus on this. That would be great. If we cannot reach the goal, then I need other kind of funding, so I will need to work on other games too, which would unfortunately delay the release of this game.
But it's not the end of the line regardless. Super Sami Roll 2.
No. I mean, you can probably guess by looking at this demo how much time and effort has been put into it. I'm not going to throw this away, of course.
Oh, it's a project of love for you, right? I can see how passionate you are about this franchise.
Absolutely, yes. So this game is happening, but it is a matter of time. So if we could reach the goal, it would be great because it speeds up things a lot.
Of course, yeah. Just kind of
I
laughing
think
at the noobos making their dialogue noises in the background sometimes.
I think there were a couple of questions. I don't know if we replied all of them in Discord. Let me check real quick.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, so Quill asked inspirations. Well, for the original game, the inspirations were, like I mentioned, it's a very experimental game. So gameplay-wise, there are not that many inspirations, but on the visuals, the original game was inspired by Super Mario 3D World, especially. Several games, but especially Super Mario 3D World. That was a nice time.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing. Over 4 minutes, damn. Falco currently has the world record. I think if I just check his time at the moment, I did run sort of in the first week of release, but he's pipped me with a time of 3 minutes and 31 seconds. So that's the time to beat for any percent if anyone's interested in learning the route for themselves and toying around with it. A beautiful run, honestly. But yeah, you can see a lot of the visual inspiration in Sammy 1 as well from 3D Mario. I think that's pretty clear for anyone who plays it, let's say.
Yeah, some people mention it. I'm happy people saw that because it was an actual inspiration, yes. And for the sequel, well, there is more detail and a big inspiration visually was what's the name of this game? Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. On the of course, not gameplay. Gameplay is very different, but on the visual side, yes, it was an inspiration for the sequel. Yes.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. Kirby's been on my list for a little while of games to pick up, so maybe I'll have to check that out for myself and see some of those visual inspirations. All right, final chance in chat for any more questions, but otherwise we're going to close things out here. Getting absolute pleasure to have Vinox join us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Anyone joining us?
Join the game. You also have been helping me with the campaign, so thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have so much passion for the games that you are making right now, and I just want as many people as possible to be able to support your vision. But yeah, make sure that you are sharing a post on social media talking about the campaign. As long as we can get it in front of people's eyes, I think Super Sami Roll 2 is a really charming game, and I hope that it wins people over and maybe they'll back the campaign by the end. 20 days left. Let's see how we go.
I hope we reach the goal and the game is a success and everybody has a Sami figure or something figured in, and yeah.
I mean, just check out the rewards as well. We do have some pretty limited numbers on some of the exclusive rewards, so only 6 spots left in Rock and Roller if you wanted to be a part of this closed beta. Otherwise, you're going to be jumping up to it's one of the Born to Roll tiers. That's the next available price. So if you want physical rewards, it's a really good one to go for. Get a copy of the original game on either Switch or PlayStation 5. There's no exclusive comic, pin, stickers. You get some other rewards in that as well. And if you really want to support the game, there is one more high roller spot left. So that's 70,000 yen, something similar, Vinox. But that's really exclusive rewards. You get to design an enemy in the game and a character accessory. I think we've spoken about.
That's gonna be very fun. That's gonna be very fun.
Yes, it's a really fun reward. We've spoken about things like the social goals. Let me share. Okay, the monitor share is not working. 1 second. Oh no. Here we go. So on stream, got the social goals. We're still working towards these. So if you're already backing the game, there are other ways to support things. So it's unlockable pets. We've got a Steam exclusive accessory, and these unique mini games. After hearing what Venox has said about the Ape Escape inspiration, ooh, that's got me excited now thinking about that.
I just want to clarify that one.
That's
not what
way
I
out of scope. Let's make sure that.
Yeah.
But just the fact that you're thinking about things like that has me excited. And if we can even look ahead, if we can cross that line, some of these stretch goals, the music player, of course, Evaded Music, beautiful addition to the first game. I love their tracks. But there's some really cool things in here. Quick Ghosts, I think that'd be such a great addition to the game to be able to learn routing of levels, improve your times just by seeing how you've done things. Maybe there's some stuff that can be found there. These little side objectives, even things like the online leaderboard as we get further down. If we can get these stretch goals, it's a massive addition to the game. But for now, 20 days left. We are almost at the halfway mark. Let's just keep sharing the campaign, share the love. And then I'm sure as a community we can get this done.
Let's do it. Yeah. I really want to see like all the stretch goals. Most of them I want them in the game, like really bad.
Yeah.
Some of them I am like, okay, even if they are not, maybe like the online leaderboards, that would be nice, but the game would still be very good without them, I think. But like the quick goals, for example, I think that would be such an amazing addition to the game. Like just competing against yourself, and yeah, that would be great.
All right, let's leave things here for today, Venox. Thank you again for joining us and taking the time.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, take care. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.